Welcome back to my channel, and in this video we are going to discuss a concept known as Palmar arches in hand biomechanics. Already we had discussed in detail about the plantar arches in ankle and foot complex. This is something quite similar to that. Similar to the plantar arches, we have some arches in our palm in the hand. We're going to discuss what are the arches, what are the functions of the arch, and which are the types of arches. One thing we can clearly demarcate between the plantar arches and the palmar arches is that in foot, one of the major function was weight bearing. Along with mobility and stability, one of the major function of a arch system of the foot, medial longitudinal arch, lateral longitudinal arch, and transverse arch was the weight bearing function. But in hand, we don't have the weight bearing function, so the major functions would be mobility and stability. So let us explore in detail about the palmar arches and be thorough with the topic. Yes, as I told you, the concept of palmar arches are quite similar with the plantar arches, and because both of them have the same shape, they are arch-like in structure. So we find these arches in our hand, and they are of three type of arches. Okay, or we have three arches in our hand. Two are a transverse arch and one is a longitudinal arch. And by now I know that most of you would be thorough with the concept of what is transverse and what are longitudinal things. So the transverse things would be transversely oriented, and if you look the example of the hand, where can we have this transverse arch? Can we have it here like this? It's not possible. We have it here and here. Yes. So at the CMC joint, or the starting of the hand to wrist to hand region, we have the first arch over here, and second we have another arch in this region. So these are the two arches of the hand. Okay, these are the two transverse of arches of the hand. And how can we name it? Okay, how can we name it? Can you just tell me some method of naming it? This is a transverse arch. This is also transverse arch. Which is closer to the body? This one is closer to the body. So let us name it as a proximal transverse arch, right? So let us name it as a proximal transverse arch, and let us name this as the distal transverse arch. So we have two type of transverse arches in the hand. One is a proximal arch and one is the distal arch. Okay, don't get confused with the creases. Okay, these are the palmar creases. These lines you see here is the what you call creases. Plantar arches and palmar arches are a different concept. Like this cave, this concave shaped cave over here is the palmar arches and not the palmar creases. These are the lines that you can see in both of your hands. So with this we find out that there are three palmar arches. One is a transverse arch, which are a proximal and distal one, and then one longitudinal arch. Now let us move into the details of each of these palmar arches. Now just look at this diagram, I feel that's a very beautiful diagram explaining all the concept about what are the palmar arches. And just looking into the diagram, you can just find out all the essence of what the palmar arches is actually. And you can see that they are symbolically represented a cave-like structure, an arch-like structure, which they have marked as a keystone, which we'll discuss later to help you understand the concept of palmar arches. And you can see there is the proximal palmar arch, which is seen at the level of the carpal bones and the base of the metacarpals, and then there is the distal transverse arch we can see at the level of metacarpals, and of course you can see the longitudinal arch, which is more specifically to the level of what you call the second and third metacarpals, which is in longitudinal direction. Now we are focusing on what are the different type of arches. So the first one is our proximal transverse arch. As I told you, it's a proximal one, which is more close to the wrist joint, and the one of the most important peculiarity of this arch is that it is a early fixed palmar arch. What do you mean by that? Yes, this arch is relatively more fixed than the other arches. that is the that is the distal and longitudinal arches, which are actually mobile. That's because you know that this region is a compactly packed one with the carbon bonds, and there is less mobility, which is evident over there, and as a result, the distal proximal palmar arch is a fixed one and it's not mobile. That's one of the most important thing that you have to remember. It is formed by the carbon bonds. I told you the carbon bonds actually helps in the formation of this arch. Okay, which carbon bonds can you suggest? The distal row of carbon bonds, not the proximal row. Okay, the distal row of carbon bonds, which is including trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamlet, help in the formation of this sort of a proximal palmar arch. Right, I hope that is clear. So it is formed with the help of or it's formed by the orientation and arrangement of palmar carbon bonds, and this arch is been stabilized by or held in place with the help of a flexor retinaculum, and there is another ligament over here. Any idea? We have discussed in the previous session. Any idea? Can you just think on? Yes, the transverse carpal ligament, and flexor retinaculum help in holding that arch in its place and giving the integrity to the arch. So these are the most important things with the transverse carpal arch, which includes it's a fixed arch formed by the concavity of carbon bonds maintained by flexor retinaculum and transverse carpal ligament. Just look at this diagram, which clearly illustrates the proximal transverse arch. And if you look, the arch is actually starting at the level of carpals, but it's slightly shown as forward from it, but that's not the real scenario. In real scenario, it's more or less close to the distal row of carpal bones and the metacarpal basis. Of course, you know what is metacarpal basis, yes, and of course you can see the distal transverse arch, which is seen at the level of metacarpal head. Okay, and of course in the above diagram, the diagram A, they have also illustrated the longitudinal arch, which we will see later. Okay, so this is a representation of a proximal transverse arch. And if our system is asked to better draw a diagram and explaining both three of these arches in the same diagram, it can get you a good amount of mark, right? Next one is the distal transverse arch. It is away from the carpal bones or away from the wrist complex, and it is more associated with the metacarpals. It's more associated with metacarpal. Here we have that. So it is more associated with the metacarpal heads. Okay, and thus we call it as metacarpal arch. Thus we call it as the metacarpal arch. Okay. So this arch, you know that contrary to this one is a relatively a movable one. Okay, this is a mobile one. So the distal carpal arch is a mobile one. Okay, the distal carpal arch is a mobile one, whereas proximal carpal arch was not mobile. Okay, right? So that's important that you have to remember in this region. The distal carpal arch is mobile, and this one is stabilized by flexor retinaculum and the deep carpal ligament. Okay, sorry, the transverse carpal ligament. What about this structure? This arch over here. Do you know? Can you just point out me which is the ligament which is spanning between the head of metacarpals? Of course, we have discussed it earlier. That is a deep transverse metacarpal ligament. That is a deep transverse metacarpal ligament attaching to the head of metacarpals, and helps. This ligament helps in stabilization of which type of arch? The distal transverse arch. Okay, so these are the most important points in distal transverse arch. And one more thing I want to add on is like the second and third metacarpals are relatively stable, and third and fourth is mobile in the more mobile in the second in the deep transverse arch or the distal transverse arch. That point we have discussed in the previous video. Yes, so that is the important thing over here. It's a mobile arch formed at the metacarpal heads, as I told you, maintained by deep transverse metacarpal ligament, also called metacarpal arch. And second and third metacarpals are stable, whereas fourth and fifth one are mobile. In general, you can call this arch as a mobile one compared to the transverse arch. The diagram again, the same thing that we have seen earlier. It's just a black and white diagram of that. Focus more on the distal transverse arch. You can see that this is more correctly labeled, and it's at the metacarpal head itself. Okay, so it's at the metacarpal head itself, and this is the distal transverse arch, often known as the the metacarpal arch. I hope that is clear. So when you are writing, when you're studying for exam, you can just draw two columns and compare and contrast between proximal and distal arch, because it's very easy to compare and study, and because they have some more or less similar points to ponder. Okay. And the last one is the longitudinal arch, which is seen over here like this. Okay, it starts from the proximal to distal end. It starts from the proximal to distal end, and one of the most important peculiarity of this arch is it involves the fingers also. It involves the fingers also, and the other arches do not include the fingers or digits, fingers, and this one includes the fingers. And this one is also a mobile one. You can see that this one is also a mobile one, right? This arch is also a mobile one. It helps in the flexion range of the arm. It helps in the flexion range of the fingers. Okay, so what can you tell about the longitudinal arch? It travels or transfers from or starts from the proximal to distal end and includes the fingers. It's a mobile arch. It helps in maintaining the flexion range available. Okay. Yes, it's one another point is that it is stiff at the wrist level and free at the proximal end. You can simply tell that it is from here, it starts on like this. Okay, at this end it is a fixed one, because you know that the carpal end is a fixed one, but distal end is a free one. So distal end is a free, but this end is a fixed one. So that's important concept with regard to the longitudinal arch. They won't ask you longitudinal arch, they won't ask you deep transverse arch in specific, but mostly they can ask you what is Palmar arch. So you just have to study with respect to the comparing and contrasting between the different Palmar arches. You can draw them 3-4 columns or 2 columns and an additional one, and just study for that thing. It's a really easy one. So 2 mobile arches, that is a longitudinal arch, and deep transverse arch or the distal transverse arch. Then one immobile one or one fixed one, that is the proximal transverse arch, right? And this is the diagram of a proximal transverse arch and the longitudinal arch. And you can see that from this diagram, the second and third metacarpals are taken as the reference point for that one. So that is what they have shown in the first diagram as the keystone. So second and third metacarpal forms the keystone of that arch. And second and third metacarpal forms the keystone of that arch. Okay, so these are the most important concept with respect to the arches. And of course there are a lot of muscles which are contributing to the function of the arches. For example, flexor carpi ulnaris can help in formation or help in improving the movement possible at the arch, because you know that third and fourth metacarpals are the digits are the one which is having greater amount of movement. So flexor carpi ulnaris, which is having a function on that, can improve the efficiency of that one. Then opponent's digita minimi is also another muscle which can improve the efficiency of the arch or the movement possible at the third and fourth metacarpal. For example, if you want to understand how far this distal transverse arch is immobile, you just have to slowly make a fist like this. Okay, and then after that slow fist, try to squeeze it again. You can see that the movement is only possible at the third and fourth one, not at the first and second one. Once again, let's try that together. Okay, we try to make a fist like this, and after the fist we try to squeeze the fourth and fifth digits, or we try to squeeze it again. Then you can see that the movement is possible at the fourth and fifth one. That shows that a greater amount of movement is possible at the fourth and fifth one when compared to the second and third one. Okay, so 2 muscles over there, flexor carpi ulnaris and flexor opponent's digita minimi, and also other muscles also have a role in the maintenance of arch, but negligible, right? And the last point that we have to discuss over here is the function of the arch, which you know that is the mobility and the stability of the wrist complex and hand complex. At the same time, it helps in grasping object. For example, I have this object over here. If my hand is not having any arch, I just go and keep it like this. I may not be able to grasp the object very easily. So the grasping of the object is readily possible. Not just because of this, but it's readily possible is because of the arch system of the hand. I can grasp the object very easily. Also, when, for example, when I'm contacting something like this, the surface area of the contact is only very less. But when contacting like this, we can have a greater surface of the contact, so therefore stability, greater stability in the action. So mobility and stability is a function of the arch. It helps in contouring the hand according to the objects, or help hand to contour to the shape of the objects that we take through the hand. It helps in increasing the surface area of contact with the hand and the object, and at the same time you know that there are a lot of proprioceptives and receptors over the hand, so it will help in greater sensory feedback. Greater surface area means greater sensory feedback, so we can have a feedback on which object we are taking in the hand, etc. Okay. These all are very evident in our real life practice, because even if we close eye, we can just find out which is the by just understanding the object, we can just figure out what is under my hand. Of course, it's not just purely because of the arches, but of course arches has error in it. That's all the most important aspect of the arches. And when you have this question for examination as a 3 mark, try to draw some diagram, draw 2 columns, and just compare and contrast, and it's done. Okay. And if you like the video, don't forget to click the like button and kindly subscribe to our channel.